Thank you, Aaron, and good evening to you at home. Thank you for your company. I predict a massive political earthquake in the coming years because I think everyday people who don't obsessively follow the news or politics will begin to clock on for the first time about something that's not quite right about the way our country's being run. Let me point to Labour's Chagos Islands surrender as a prime example. How can you possibly explain to an everyday Joe that our government is absolutely obsessed with giving away sovereign British territory to a nation that's never owned that territory before, and we're paying them at least £9 billion of taxpayer money for the privilege? And then, at the same time, that same government is pleading poverty at home and telling everyone they must live harder and poorer lives because there just isn't enough money to go around here in Britain. So, how do you square that? How do you justify giving away important strategic British territory and £9 billion in the process, while also telling pensioners they can't have winter fuel allowance because the government is skint? Soon, enough people are going to stand up and pay attention. And when it comes to Chagos, they should be. If you already thought the entire deal stunk like a pack of kippers at breakfast, get a load of this breaking story today that plunges it to a whole new level of stench. The former Mauritius PM who masterminded our Chagos surrender deal, he's been arrested and hauled up in court on money laundering charges. Here he is, being dragged into court today. Pravind Jugnauth, the former Prime Minister of Mauritius. Authorities had earlier raided the home of his close associate, where they reportedly discovered suitcases filled with millions of pounds in cash, spanning more than a dozen currencies, along with luxury items including Rolex and Cartier watches. And, crucially, get this, UK visas. How the hell did they amass millions in cash and UK visas? One of the associates of the former PM, allegedly found with some of the money, claims Mr Jugnauth had asked him in January last month to hold the cash on his behalf. Mr Jugnauth's lawyer, Ralph Gourball, said the allegations against his client were bogus and no incriminating evidence was found at his address. So what do we know as facts then about Mr Jugnauth and the whole Chagos saga in general? Well, he was the PM of Mauritius as recently as November and took calls with Sir Keir Starmer in the first 5 months of the Labour government last year as they negotiated the Chagos surrender deal. Jugnauth also met one David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, at the Foreign Office in London a few weeks after our general election in July. And in 2022, Mr Jugnauth, here he is, attended the state funeral of Queen Elizabeth in London and was photographed greeting the King. Meanwhile, Keir Starmer's good friend and confidant, Philippe Sands KC, has been head of legal counsel for Mauritius since 2010, acting for Mauritius. Here he is. Sands has acted against Britain, his own country, in 3 international cases, including the case for Britain to give up Chagos. Here's a clip, and this is a good one, of Philippe Sands saying it's fantastic to humiliate Britain on the world stage.
When you've been to an international court against your own country, won and humiliated them completely, they still celebrate you. And that is special. I mean, it's slightly said in jest, but how many other countries have the openness of mind and spirit to recognise that a member of their legal community, a barrister, in exercise of an independent profession, can be retained by another country to sue the United Kingdom in international court, and that is not held against you? I feel very proud of that.
There we go. So remember, this guy calls Sir Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, a great friend. He also supported Keir Starmer's campaign to become Prime Minister. As Guido Fawkes reports, Sands tweeted in January 2020 that Keir Starmer was sending a, quote, strong message, was a strong candidate and had strong support. Then, as Guido also revealed a few weeks ago, Sir Keir Starmer's friend, Philippe, who works for the Mauritius government, remember, entered the Chagos Islands in 2022 and participated in the hoisting of the Mauritius flag. Sands tweeted a picture of the ceremony and captioned it, "It's morning on Chagos, where the flag of Mauritius flies, proving that the rule of law is not only a dream." Just for the record, Mr Sands says the Chagos Islands were illegally detached from Mauritius in 1965 and the forcible deportation of the entire population between 68 and 73 by Britain was illegal. And he believes the deportations and its continuing effects is widely seen as a crime against humanity. So my big question is, what's going on here? Why is Keir Starmer so obsessed with giving away key British overseas territory, handing over billions of your taxpayer cash in the process, in a legal wrangle that involves his good friend acting on behalf of the other party? Let's see what our transparent British Labour government has to say about it all. Oh yeah, silly me. Absolutely nothing. Zilch. They're not speaking about it. There is, of course, no suggestion Starmer or Sands have done anything wrong, but where you have Keir Starmer's mate running around trying to seal a deal for Chagos and the former Mauritius PM being arrested on money laundering charges involving millions in cash and UK visas, you'd expect our government to say something. I don't know what's going on. I don't have the facts. I simply present you the case at hand to make up your own mind. But what I do know is that this Chagos Islands surrender deal looks increasingly bizarre and nonsensical, and certainly, most importantly, not in the interests of the British people. Let's get the thoughts of my panel now. Pub landlord and activist Adam Brooks, the political commentator Chloe Dobbs, and the former Labour Minister Bill Rammell. Good evening, panel.
Good evening.
Welcome along. Bill Rammell, does this deal make sense to you?
Yes, it does. And look, I'm a former Foreign Office Minister who had responsibility for the Chagos Islands, and I've negotiated with the Chagosians and Mauritius. And nobody has lived in the Chagos Islands since the 1960s. It was actually one of the most disgraceful episodes in British history, started by a then Labour government to expel the Chagosians from their islands. But what matters here is that there's a hugely important military base that we and the US jointly own, and that has been at risk. Both the last Tory government and the present Labour government were persuaded by legal advice that it was better to secure a 99-year renewable lease to secure that base rather than the ongoing uncertainty that could have removed the base from us. That's what this is about. You make a big weather, Ben, about the £9 billion. That's for 99 years.
By the way, that's a minimum. That's me being very conservative.
That's the
up to 18 billion, which Keir Starmer hasn't denied.
And that's £480 per taxpayer.
Right. Well, hold on. It's 0.009% of public spending for the next 99 years. If that secures us a really important military base, then that's what matters.
Secure,
in terms, it's not secure.
It is.
In terms of the detail, that will come out when the deal has been concluded, and that's the way every international negotiation takes place.
It's already secure because the ICJ has no ruling over the UK. It's advisory. We do not have to adhere to the ICJ ruling now or in the future.
Then why did the last Tory government begin these negotiations? Because they were persuaded by the legal advice as well.
With a deal, I will sit down and listen to them. If it's rubbish, I will send them on their way. That's what the Conservative government did.
No.
Under Cameron, that's what they did.
But they were negotiating proactively.
Cameron walked out. He said, I'm not continuing. He vetoed it.
Ben, I'm from Essex. I know a dodgy deal when I see one. You know, and this is diabolical. I used an analogy on GBNews last week. It's like me giving my friend my shed and then saying to my friend, I will pay you for the next 99 years for me to use my own shed.
And you're getting the money from your neighbour.
I mean that sums it up perfectly.
Why would I give something away that I already have? That base is at no risk. And I'm pretty confident that Donald Trump and the administration will put an end to this or stop to this because it makes no sense. And I think
if they were going to do that, they would have done it by now. And let me ask you this, Adam. Is £9 billion over 99 years a lot of public money?
And we have
Is that a lot of money over 99 years?
Hold on.
It's a drop in the ocean.
The government is pleading poverty. So even if it's...
Yeah, this is 90 million a year.
Even if it's £10 million, which our government seems to throw around like confetti, our pensioners are not being able to heat their homes. We should not send £1 to Mauritius.
Exactly. You can argue that it's being spread over many years. We shouldn't be giving it away in the first place, regardless of...
We're not giving away. We're securing our base.
That's nonsense.
No, it's our base now. We're giving it away. We're basically paying someone to take something from us. It's absolute nonsense. And now that we're finding out, potentially, the Prime Minister that we negotiated with this was perhaps a guy who was eyeing up the money for himself for a few more Rolex.
Who's had no charges levied against him.
Well, yes, he's been hauled into court today.
He's denied all the allegations, of course. course, but it looks like it could be the case that this was someone who is corrupt. Maybe that is a country, Mauritius. We don't know what the new Prime Minister will be like. It's a corrupt country that pockets money. We know with foreign aid, for example, there are plenty of issues of money going into the wrong pockets when you send it abroad.
On that point, Bill, do you think the situation today with the former PM being hauled into court, I mean, of course, he denies all allegations. If anything happens with that, do you think that could threaten the deal?
No, I don't, because, look, that was the previous government. The new government in Mauritius backs this deal as well.
We've been told that the Prime Minister is criticising the deal.
No, he's not. He's signed up to it. I choose my words carefully. In many parts of the world, there is a practice of going after your political opponents once they lose office. And because there isn't a separation of power in those countries, and Mauritius is probably one of them, between the government and the courts and the judiciary, you have cases like this. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. And what do you make of Keir Starmer's friend, Philippe Sands, KC?
Well, Philippe Sands, I had run-ins when I was a Foreign Office Minister with. I don't have the highest regard for him. He's claiming a lot that he's a friend of Keir's. I haven't heard Keir say that in reverse.
Well, there's a lot of friends of Keir's involved in this, isn't there? The Attorney General,
he's one of the most eminent lawyers in the country. Of course, he knows all sorts of people in the law.
Like myself, and the average Joe out there, it looks like this is one big lefty lawyers' club. You know,
do you not believe in the rule of law?
People that hate this country.
Sorry, Adam, do you not believe in the rule of law?
This guy, Philippe Sands,
of course I do, but...
Well, then, you've got one of the most eminent lawyers in the country who was Director of Public Prosecutions for 5 years. Of course he's going to know a stack of lawyers.
Type of people. Even Lord Hermer, you know, he's represented Shamina Begum and Jerry Adams. Why are these lefty lawyers always representing the people against the British state?
There's something called the cab rank principle in the legal profession, that you accept cases for all sorts of people, some of which you agree with, some of which you don't.
Represented, I believe, a terrorist organisation in a country abroad that wasn't the taxi cab rule. So, in that case, when it's abroad, that does not apply.
I think that was within the Commonwealth, where there is British legal jurisdiction.
Can you see how it looks to the average person like me? I'm a normal person. I'm looking in. This looks like a big boys' club giving away something that technically we own, and it's going to cost the taxpayer 18 billion. It costs the taxpayer £480 per taxpayer.
9 billion.
If it's 9 billion, it's 240.
I tell you what, you know. If legal advice came across my desk as a government minister that said you risk losing this hugely important strategic base, then you would be shockingly irresponsible not to act.
We've got to move on, unfortunately. Why do we risk losing it? We already own it.
Because we could face legal challenge and lose it.
Get stuffed. It's an advanced
then we're going to walk away from international law.
Right, we've got to move on. I mean, that's half the problem, Bill. Keir Starmer seems to care more about his position in the international stage with lefty lawyers and NGOs and organisations and globalists than he does about Britain. But anyway,